This week on Company Cars, I've come to Communique, a PR company, to find out if the people who actually create the publicity have fallen for it themselves. Brian Beach is the managing director of Communique. In PR, image is everything. What would Brian drive? 10 points if you guessed a BMW. It's a 328i, actually.
PR is an industry where perceptions are everything. The dichotomy is that you don't want to drive up in a car that's too flash because the clients will think that they have paid for it, and that's why, you know, a Porsche Carrera I don't think is ever a possibility. But by the same token, you don't want to drive up in a, you know, a D-Reg Ford Escort because people think, well, you know, this isn't an especially successful consultancy, and people do want to be associated with winners. Communique Public Relations happens to be the Northwest's biggest and most successful PR consultancy, and I think it's important in how we project that image to the outside world. So the car we drive, while being functional, is also a statement about ourselves. For me, it's better to go with something that I know is going to be consistently well performed. I drive a lot of miles, I need a comfortable car, I've got a whole host of gadgets that can keep me occupied as I'm sitting in that inevitable traffic jam at Birmingham. So this was always going to be, I suspect, the one. I did make one mistake once and had a Mazda Zedos, but I have to say that that didn't impress me quite as much as this one, to say the least. So I'm not really a gadget person. I don't think I'd ever buy a car because of gadgets, but once you've got them, I suppose it's useful to use them. I particularly like the one that tells you how much petrol you've got left in the tank down to the last mile, because you're never faced with that agonising decision when it goes into the red of, it says it's empty, but is it, and how much is there left to go? I mean, this car actually says, you know, you have 35 miles left in the tank, so I'm sort of like Rain Man. I get very sort of worried about the simplest thing, and that's a comfort factor to me, I have to say. The other one I like is how you can actually pump in the distance, and say you're doing a journey of here to Luton where we have 2 or 3 clients, you stick in the mileage and it can tell you exactly to the minute what time you're going to arrive. I started life as a teacher. My first car was a Morris 1000. I can even remember the registration number, OND114H, so if that's out there somewhere, I'd like to know, because I have very fond memories of it. So after that, I suppose, anything else is going to be a better proposition. This, though, is, I think, the 5th BMW I've had since I've been in consultancy. And people say, well, everybody's got a BMW. Well, everybody's got a BMW because it's the best car there is. It's like, why does everybody watch Manchester United? Because Manchester United are the best team there are. So this one is particularly good. It's a 328i, and I'm really, really pleased with it.
Brian drives a seriously stylish motor, and he knows it. His job is a great excuse for insisting on owning a car which reflects an image of success and enthusiasm. And what's more, if rapid depreciation on a car has the potential to reduce you to tears, a BMW will save you a lot of hankies. If you look after a BMW, there'll be no problem when it comes to resell. The whole package is a well-engineered, sensible package. But BMW could become a victim of its own success. More and more are making their way into company fleets, beginning to dent that special image just a little. Now, this really isn't a family car. Space in the rear is cramped, and the middle passenger has to straddle the transmission tunnel, and headroom in the back is low. Footroom is poor too, with the front seats in the lowest position. Boot space is not vast, but perfectly adequate for a set of golf clubs. It's an ideal vehicle for dinkies. Double income, no kids yet people. For them to travel in luxury. Debbie Wells is an account director with the firm, and she drives the Toyota Celica.
I didn't actually choose this car. It was chosen, of course, as you might imagine, by a fella, having looked at the colour and shape and sleekiness of it. The person who worked for the company before me actually chose it. If I had all the money in the world, I would still go for something which is not necessarily that expensive. Like a Carman Gear is about, what, 7 grand, 9 grand, top of the range one, which has been really done up nicely. I'd still go for something like that. Something that's a bit different, that's eye-catching, not for the reason that it's so expensive, but for the reason that it's just a bit different. A really nice, smooth runner, wonderful to drive, shifts beautifully, so it is a real pleasure to drive. I just think it gives out all the wrong messages about the person who's driving it, though. Because the sort of person who'll drive a car like this is sort of an archetypal PR person. It's very flashy, it's very glitzy, and that's not actually the sort of person that I am.
Debbie may not have chosen the Toyota Celica for herself, but many would dearly swap their ubiquitous family runaround for this stylish sporter. If you're into hard sports driving, you may be disappointed by the rather soft ride. And it's a shame they had to ruin the sporty image with these cheap hubcaps, though alloy wheels are now standard on the Celica. Connoisseurs of this kind of car, though, may reject the bland styling, preferring the aggressive look of the previous Celica, even though the current model packs a bigger punch underneath the bonnet. There are loads of onboard toys with straightforward switchgear, but do hunt around before you part with your cash. Price differences for a year or two old Celica can be huge. Claire Bryant is a PA. Her company car is a Ford Fiesta Festival.
Well, unlike Debbie's, this is my car. I've always wanted a Fiesta. Right from as far as when I started driving, a Fiesta was what I wanted. I've always wanted a green car. And when I found this one that was green, that was it. I was sold. I thought, that's it, I want this car. I'm not having anything else, just this car. Fiestas are really quite nippy. That's what I like about them. They're not particularly powerful, but they certainly get me from A to B very quickly. And as I tend to drive about 30 miles a day, I also look for a car that's quite comfortable and doesn't use too much petrol. The Fiestas that I see in the road tend to be a lot of reds and whites. There are very few green Fiestas on the road, and certainly not the limited edition, which are Fiesta Festivals, which is what this car is. So there are very few Fiesta Festivals around. I think if I had all the money in the world, the car that I would love to have is an Audi A4 soft top. Fantastic cars, really quiet to drive in, beautiful looking cars, and what I think of really as being a sort of a woman's car, not particularly sporty, very comfortable, just beautiful.
$1 billion of Ford money was spent developing the Fiesta, and after 9.5 units sold across the globe, this has certainly paid off. We have to say that the all-new 1996 Fiesta with the droopy face you've seen around is a vast improvement on what is now sold as the classic. But this is not to say that this L-Reg is a poor car. After all, it spent years of its life at the top of the UK bestsellers. The car will do you proud on short trips or to take you to and from work. And if you don't want to plough too much cash into your motor, and image and refinement is not an issue, the Ford Fiesta is still a reasonably good buy. Parts and service charges will be low and fuel economy will be good. Certainly this Mark III, which was launched in 1989, is a far better choice than the earlier tinny and somewhat unreliable versions of the Fiesta. Well, there you go. It would seem that image does count, and they certainly seem quite happy with the cars they've chosen for their employees.